In reality, Zhao Shu didn't stay long and left Daz Island directly. This was just a passing through place. If there wasn't a suitable place for Saitama to appear, he wouldn't have shown up here. And at the same time, host, Zhao Shu, character template. 1. Uchiha Madara, 65%, 2. Saitama, 33%. After Zhao Shu transformed into Saitama using the transformation technique, the realism increased to 25%. This is different from the previous situation where it was 30% after Uchiha Madara's transformation ended. Although the appearance is almost identical to Zhao Shu's impression, the final ratio is completely different. Is this because of the differences in their details? Or is it that Zhao Shu's transformation is slightly different from the original, and the expressions and such are not accurate? Or is it that Zhao Shu's inner self is closer to Uchiha Madara, creating a significant difference with Saitama? Zhao Shu is not sure, but it is true that Saitama is more difficult to imitate than Uchiha Madara. In any case, the performance just now almost made his face cramp, so he decided to end it and retreat early. A plain expression is not easy to achieve. Each character has different abilities. Uchiha Madara has a complete ninjutsu system. After reaching 65%, Zhao Shu even possesses the Rinnegan and can activate wood style, significantly increasing his strength. On the other hand, Saitama only has physical abilities. Apart from physical and mental qualities, Saitama doesn't have any other abilities. He cannot harm any enemy, no matter who they are. No matter what kind of enemy it is, it's just a matter of one punch for him. He is a character who is invincible from the start. Of course, it doesn't mean that Saitama is invincible and that Zhao Shu, who has the Saitama template, is also invincible. Saitama is very strong, capable of smashing meteorites with one punch and freely moving in space. But compared to the big shots in Dragon Ball who can destroy planets in the universe, he is weaker, and he cannot compare to other conceptual things. However, judging from his own strength, Saitama's power is indeed extremely strong. Zhao Shu only needs this template to defeat a powerful individual with a bounty of over 1 billion with one punch, which fully demonstrates Saitama's abilities. Of course, there are also troubles. Saitama's setting is that he can defeat any enemy with one punch, so Zhao Shu shouldn't expect to fight against someone who can't be defeated with one punch. That would expose him. It's best to quickly improve Saitama's strength. Zhao Shu pondered for a moment and thought to himself. So far, the main income for the system's realism is Zhao Shu's own performance. Although it's hard to say how to achieve a composite character image, after all, there are 1,000 Hamlets in the eyes of 1,000 readers. But according to Zhao Shu's guess, the bigger the audience's reputation, the higher the level of pretentiousness, and the wider the spread, the greater the improvement obtained. Of course, it's not easy to find such a performance scene. Although devil fruits have a lower cost effectiveness and become less useful later on, they can quickly enhance Saitama's abilities in the early stages. So, go to the island where the clones disappear and bring back the devil fruit from there. Zhao Shu made a decision in his mind. Of course, for now, the most important thing is to find a Sea King to use as transportation. Saitama is a character who runs and rushes to the location of monsters on foot. Uchiha Madara is more reliable, and on the other side, the sword demon was killed, and the other small fry were no match for Marine. Just as the lieutenant led the Marines in pursuit, Marines' reinforcements finally arrived. "Teacher Zephyr, you're here?" the lieutenant exclaimed in surprise. Zephyr nodded calmly. "I'm a bit late, but it seems like you guys don't need any help here." Marine wasn't foolish and naturally called for reinforcements early on. As the commanding officer of Marines' recruit training camp, it was only natural for Zephyr to come to support. Moreover, the attack by the sword demon was because of him. It's because a passing strong individual helped, otherwise, the lieutenant didn't seek credit and directly mentioned Saitama's involvement. Upon hearing this, a glimmer of interest flashed in Zephyr's eyes. A hero? He had admired heroes since he was young. One day, when a bully was picking on a girl with a teddy bear, he gathered his courage and defeated the bully, solidifying his own beliefs. Marine, too, joined to become a hero. And in this current era of the great age of navigation, there were still people calling themselves heroes. "Take me to see him," Zephyr immediately said. Yes. However, when Zephyr arrived at the location where Saitama had acted, Saitama's figure was naturally nowhere to be seen. "He's gone." Zephyr squinted his eyes, looking at the battlefield around him. Especially when his gaze fell on the nearly pulverized sword demon, he paused and said, "Impressive. Weird, where's that person named Saitama?" The lieutenant furrowed his brows. Zephyr wanted to meet him, but why wasn't he here? He left. Toshigi, who was beside them, couldn't help but interject. He left? The lieutenant was taken aback, seeing the shigure in Toshigi's hand. This sword is. It was given to me by Mr. Saitama. Toshigi was a bit nervous. Currently, she was just a recruit. Zephyr looked at Toshigi and asked, "Oh, he left, huh? Did he say anything?" Toshigi swallowed and said, "When I asked him what a hero is, Mr. Saitama said, in this world, there are countless evildoers, and those who dare to stand up and confront them are heroes." Upon hearing this, Zephyr fell into silence, then he burst into laughter. Laughter filled with joy. "Ha ha ha, yes, someone like that is naturally a hero, he's right." After laughing for a while, Zephyr finally calmed down from his hearty laughter. He looked at Toshigi and asked, "Your name is Toshigi, right? Are you willing to graduate from the recruit training camp and follow me?" "Can I?" Toshigi's face was filled with surprise. Zephyr was a hero of Marine, after all. Of course, Zephyr smiled. On the other hand, the lieutenant seemed to have realized something and couldn't help but ask, "Teacher, what are you thinking?" Zephyr nodded without hesitation. For someone so full of righteousness, it would be a waste not to join Marine, wouldn't it? "I want to invite Saitama to join Marine." The devil fruit was placed on an island in East Blue, and Zhao Shu was rushing towards that island. He was very relaxed, occasionally checking the news from the newsbird. The blockade of Sabodi Archipelago by the Marines is still ongoing. In fact, with his early departure, the blockade of Sabodi Archipelago has lost its meaning. But it's just a waste of time and money. However, Zhao Shu considered it and still sent out a clone, ready to show his face on an island in the Grand Line as Uchiha Madara, act a little arrogant, and then disappear. Showing off is not the point is that the Marines have been blocking Sabodi Archipelago for almost a month. The people on the island are basically surviving on the supplies provided by the Marines. After all, with a month of blockade, no food can enter, and the stored food has long been exhausted. Even Rayleigh and Shaki are probably in the same situation. It's pitiful that the vice captain of the Pirate King can only eat the food allocated by the Marines. The purpose of Zhao Shu sending out a clone is to show the Marines that Uchiha Madara has long left Sabodi Archipelago. To prevent the continued blockade of the island and avoid complaints from Rayleigh and others. Of course, he estimated that the Marines also knew that it was impossible to find him. With a month-long blockade, it was just a show for the Celestial Dragons. They are not fools. They can see from the surveillance videos that Uchiha Madara transformed into a guard, naturally knowing Uchiha Madara's Grandmaster transformation technique, which can achieve a similar effect to the clone fruit. Want to catch such a person? Even the buster call won't work. First, you have to constantly check whether the soldiers of the Marines have been infiltrated, and then carefully inspect every person on Sabodi Archipelago. With this amount of work, unless Uchiha Madara is caught off guard, it is basically impossible to complete. Because except for some ability users who are not easy to impersonate, the three admirals, and powerful individuals like them, it is difficult for others not to be impersonated by Uchiha Madara. Don't even think about catching him. In fact, Yanin are also known for their versatile means of response. Although there are many devil fruits in the world of pirates, they can't compare to the versatility of ninjas. Even the second template Saitama that Zhao Shu possesses may be stronger than Uchiha Madara in terms of overall strength during his prime. But in terms of the functional power, Saitama is completely inferior to Uchiha Madara. Not to mention that Uchiha Madara's combat power is not weak at all. Zhao Shu headed straight to the hiding place of the devil fruit in East Blue, the weakest sea, so he didn't need to worry about anything. He even chose to use Saitama's face all the way to show off, punching any pirates he encountered. Even the sword demon, who had a bounty of over 100 million and specially came to the training base in East Blue from the Grand Line, was knocked out by Zhao Shu with one punch. There were no opponents that could not be solved with one punch. After all, this is just the weakest East Blue. Even the 9 snakes thought that East Blue was the weakest. Even if they actively approached the Marines, they would not be tricked or calculated by the Marines. Soon, Zhao Shu arrived at the island of his target and dug out his devil fruit. It was still intact, without any changes, no sprouting, no rooting. Maybe it was because of the winter. By the way, can devil fruits be planted? And can devil fruits spoil? Forget it, anyway, I won't eat it, so it doesn't matter to me. Zhao Shu glanced at the devil fruit and immediately let the system absorb it. Then he added the energy to the Saitama template. Host. Zhao Shu. Possessing character templates. 1. Uchiha Madara, 65%. 2. Saitama, 43%. The growth of the Saitama template was very fast. The 3 devil fruits increased it by 7 percentage points, and the show-off along the way added another 3 or 4 points. The main reason is that the strength of the opponents has little impact on Saitama's show-off. After all, in the world of one punch, no matter who it is, Saitama can solve them with one punch. The pirates in East Blue, whether weak or strong, cannot escape this range, so it doesn't have much impact. Speaking of which, the country next to this island seems to be called Goa Kingdom. Zhao Shu squinted his eyes. At the same time, 2 marine warships sailed straight ahead. One was the most traditional marine warship, with almost no decorations or modifications. But the other one had a dog's head biting a bone as the figurehead. Garp, why are you here? Zephyr said. I came to see my grandson in Windmill Village. Garp held his nose and ate a senbei. What about you? Why are you here? Zephyr's eyes turned. If this old bastard Garp knew about Saitama, would he compete with him? Although they are all marines, who wouldn't want a promising talent when they see one? So Zephyr calmly said, I'm here to catch up with you. Really? Garp looked strange. Zephyr himself is a very dedicated and serious person. Although he is very gentle to his students, he would never do something like catching up with old friends. Goya Kingdom, City Center, Central Street. East Blue is the weakest sea and also the calmest sea. Although it cannot be said to be completely peaceful, most people live and work in peace. Or perhaps, the huge surrounding walls separate the entire central city from the outside. No matter how chaotic it is outside, it is still very peaceful inside, with the sound of morning songs and evening strings. A peculiar man wearing a yellow tight-fitting suit and a white cloak walked in like this, dazed and stunned. He found a corner on the street and sat down, still wearing that blank expression. Intel. They're here. Zhao Shu's eyes flashed with a glint, but it quickly disappeared, returning to that silly and cute look. Then, with a crash, the glass shattered, and the figures of 3 children holding water pipes fell from the sky. Before they could land, angry shouts came from upstairs. Free meal. Quickly catch those damn kids. However, the 3 children were very agile, stepping on walls, clothes racks, and other objects, landing safely. Ace, let's go. Yeah. The food in this place is delicious, let's come again next time. Too bad, I could have eaten 3 more bowls of ramen. After saying that, the 3 little rascals glanced at each other and immediately ran away. Because based on their experience of eating free meals, the security officer was already rushing over with a stick. Saitama squinted his eyes and looked at the 3 little guys. Ace, Sabo, and Luffy. Just as the 3 little guys expected, the security officer had arrived and was shouting, "Don't let them escape, who will help catch them?" But the people living here, who would be so kind-hearted? Sabo ran the fastest, shouting, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Don't block the way!" The 3 of them quickly escaped. Whether it was by chance or not, they happened to rush towards Zhao Shu's direction. Zhao Shu had long transformed into Saitama's appearance, pretending to be silly and cute, saying, "Free meal?" Then, standing in the middle of the road, they faced each other. Luffy covered his mouth, as if he hadn't finished eating the ramen in his mouth. "Get lost, Baldy over there," Sabo shouted loudly at Saitama. Ace also yelled, "We are fierce pirates, if you provoke us." Baldy. Saitama's mouth twitched. 3 minutes later. He dragged the trio with swollen and bruised faces back to the restaurant. The damages are 26 bowls of ramen and 1 glass. The boss calculated bit by bit. Damn it, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been caught. Sabo's face was full of dissatisfaction. Damn Baldy. Ace gritted his teeth. Saitama narrowed his eyes. Ace's mouth twitched, he touched the swollen area on his face, and lowered his head. Luffy. He's still busy finishing what's in his mouth. It's amazing how shamelessly you guys can even eat for free. Saitama frowned and said, "Don't do this next time. Even though you're kids, it's not good behavior. Mind your own business, Baldy." Saitama. Bang, 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 after giving Ace and Sabo twice as many bruises on their faces. Eating for free is not a big problem, and there won't be any major punishment. But considering how often the 3 of them eat, they'll probably be taught a lesson. Of course, they probably won't be obediently educated like that. Zhao Shu continued to disguise himself as Saitama and left the city. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, the three future influential figures, are like this now. Of course, Zhao Shu has no right to say anything about them. He is currently quite poor, whether it's Uchiha Madara or Zhao Shu, neither of them are wealthy characters, nor have they plundered any pirates. On the other hand, Saitama has killed many pirates in this identity, but unfortunately, this identity doesn't allow him to receive any rewards. By the way, how did Saitama survive for so long in the original work? What does he do for a living? Zhao Shu thought for a moment. Saitama seems to have no profession, and being a hero is just a hobby. After becoming a professional hero, it seems that he can receive a salary from the Hero Association every month. Before becoming a professional hero, did he rely on government relief funds? Zhao Shu, as the strongest man in the world, you're living off government relief funds? No wonder you get so excited when you see supermarket discounts. From this perspective, Saitama's determination is indeed terrifying. Anyway, with such strong power, it's absolutely impossible for Zhao Shu to live such a difficult life. Not to mention becoming a villain or a robber, at the very least, he would use his power to legally get rich. However, although Zhao Shu doesn't have money, he doesn't worry about food. Near the Gyover Kingdom, close to Windmill Town, there is Mount Kolbo, where there is plenty of food in the mountains and forests. Of course, he still needs to deal with the three little troublemakers above his head. Let's do it, Sabo shouted loudly, and the three of them jumped down from the trees. Do you think you can escape? Real pirates seek revenge? Go to hell, Baldy. The brave pirates have come back for revenge. Saitama. Oh, 3 seconds later. Saitama looked at the dead bodies on the ground and sighed softly. What exactly did you come here for? Damn it. Sabo and the others were lying on the ground, their imposing presence just a moment ago completely gone. Sabo gritted his teeth, trying to get up but unable to. Don't think we'll give up like this. Luffy held his head. Damn it, I'm made of rubber, so why does this person's punches hurt so much? Ace, also holding his head, tried to get up a few times but eventually gave up and angrily said to Saitama, true pirates don't give up because of a few setbacks, just you wait. Saitama rubbed his chin. How did you guys end up behind me? Of course, we've been following you from the beginning, Luffy said confidently. Saitama replied, if I remember correctly, you guys were eventually punished to wash dishes at that restaurant to pay off your debt. So why did we have time to follow you? Luffy and the others remained silent. In the next second, their bodies trembled. Once again, they were captured and sent back to the town. Zhao Shu still wore Saitama's disguise, preparing food and occasionally going to places like the Garbage Mountain to fight pirates. The pirates here were not wealthy, and they might have even fallen to the point of robbing children. But they still had some wealth. Zhao Shu didn't take any of it. Saitama's character wasn't the type to defeat enemies and take their treasure. Instead, he would give the spoils to the police. Of course, here, they were the law enforcement officers. Although Zhao Shu felt that the law enforcement officer with a belly bigger than a pregnant woman might not be so kind as to return the treasures he brought, it didn't matter. If that law enforcement officer caused trouble, a punch would be enough. However, Zhao Shu discovered one of Saitama's advantages: his physical fitness was too strong. Of course, that was part of his character. But Zhao Shu found that even if he lay in the forest without any preparation, no small insects would bother him. He once saw a mosquito trying to suck his blood, but after squatting on his arm for half an hour, it flew away without taking a drop of blood. Thinking about it, it makes sense. Even attacks that can shatter planets can't harm Saitama in the original work, let alone mosquitoes. Although this defense is not very useful, at least in terms of Saitama's realism, it's not very useful. When facing enemies that are too strong, defense is not enough. When facing enemies that are too weak, there's no need for defense. But this made Zhao Shu a little more comfortable staying in the forest. Of course, if it weren't for occasional interruptions. We're back. Die, you Baldy, thud, thud. After a series of punches and kicks, Saitama calmly yawned, brushed his teeth with a makeshift toothbrush made of twigs, and began his chivalrous acts for the day. Oh no, I should say, heroic activities, and behind him, lying quietly on the ground, were 3 bruised and swollen little brats. Darn it, another failure. He's too strong, feels just like my grandfather. So what should we do? A true pirate never lets a grudge go. The 3 of them looked at each other, unsure. Finally, Sabo, who had a better head on his shoulders, thought for a moment and said, how about this? We've been going at him directly these few times, so next time, Let's set a trap. Good idea. That's a great plan. That guy goes to the Garbage Mountain, Central Street, and Windmill Village every day. Let's set up traps along the way. Once he falls into our trap, we'll go in for revenge. The three little rascals exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. And so, they began their busy preparations. Ace chopped trees, Luffy carried things, Sabo set traps. After working for a long time, they finally dug a big hole, surrounded by various rolling logs and other contraptions. The three little guys were tired, so they decided to sleep on tree branches. And the next day, who dug this hole here? A cry of surprise, followed by the sound of someone falling into the hole. This startled the three of them awake. It's over by the trap. We caught him, haha, we truly are geniuses. Grabbing the nearby water pipe, Ace and Sabo excitedly pulled Luffy towards the trap. When they arrived, without thinking twice, they started smashing with the water pipe. Meanwhile, Luffy yawned, rubbed his eyes, and then saw the person inside the trap. The guy who fell into the hole seemed taller, stronger, and had a slightly older voice than the bald guy. Upon closer inspection, his face seemed somewhat familiar. Then, an old man with purple hair walked over. He looked at the scene in front of him with a strange expression and said, "Garp, what are you doing?" Garp. Ace and Sabo froze. The next second, Garp grabbed their necks. "It's nothing, just felt like teaching my grandsons a lesson. Zephyr, wait for me over there." Saying that, he dragged the two of them into the jungle. Soon after, cries of pain could be heard from inside. "You damn brats. Wait, you old fart, we weren't targeting you, we wanted to deal with someone else. Stop talking nonsense, both of you bite down and endure my love-filled iron fist. So, what you guys want to deal with is a very strong bald guy." Garp sat on the ground, eating senbei. "Yeah, that's right, that bastard is really strong." The trio with swollen faces obediently sat on the ground, nodding one after another. As for why it was a trio, it was probably because Luffy saw Sabo and Ace getting beaten up, so he shouted at Garp, "Grandpa, you're targeting our pirate trio." Then Garp beat him up even harder than Sabo and the others. "Just because we ate a free meal, why are you treating us like this?" Luffy complained. Eating a free meal. Garp twitched his mouth. Not good. Sabo and Ace's expressions changed, and they grabbed Luffy, wanting to run. "However, you guys ate a free meal. Instead of being good Marines, you're here doing shady things." Zephyr, who had been listening to their conversation, brightened up and walked over. "The bald guy you're talking about, is he a young man wearing yellow clothes?" You know him?" Garp turned his head. "Sort of." Zephyr neither confirmed nor denied. Interesting. As old friends, Garp naturally knew that Zephyr didn't come to reminisce. So the target must be that guy in the yellow clothes. Thinking about the information he heard from Ace and the others, it did pique his interest. "Hero activities? Enforcing justice?" Garp smirked. "Old friend, I suddenly want to meet that masked kid who's a complete stranger." "Is that so? Then let's go together." Zephyr squinted his eyes. This person couldn't let that old immortal Garp snatch him away. In reality, Zhao Shu was diligently carrying out hero activities, and it was even starting to bring about changes in the country. The Goa kingdom was extremely polarized, with one side being a garbage dump and the other side being the noble area. The laws were not as perfect as in Zhao Shu's previous life, and various underground organizations, bandits, and pirates were rampant. Moreover, these underground organizations had close ties with the nobles. If it weren't for Zhao Shu basically wiping out all the enemies he encountered every time he went out and living in a remote mountain, national-level figures would have probably come knocking on his door long ago. But even so, Zhao Shu didn't care. There was nothing that couldn't be solved with a punch. If there was, then 2 punches. Of course, Zhao Shu wasn't constantly engaged in hero activities, and even Saitama himself didn't run around every day. Most of the time, he watched TV. Of course, there was no TV now, so Zhao Shu had to increase his time spent outside a little. But now he was lying in the temporary house he had made. Suddenly, Zhao Shu narrowed his eyes. "They're here." Then, the next second, Saitama's expression returned to his usual silly and innocent look. Not long after, there was a knocking sound on the shoddily made door. "Hey, bald brat inside, come out now." Of course, there were also the voices of 2 old men arguing. "Garp, why are you shouting so loudly? It's just how I am, is that not okay? You're just looking for trouble, what's it to you?" Saitama yawned and casually opened the door. Then, his dead fish eyes met Garp's spirited gaze. 3 seconds later. Saitama. Hello, my house doesn't need any news. Garp. Zephyr. Garp. We're not here to sell news. Saitama. Oh, I don't need daily necessities, milk, or insurance either. Everyone. That's not what this is about. Seeing signs of Garp going berserk, Zephyr immediately stepped forward and said, Your name is Saitama, right? Yeah. I'm Zephyr. Now you know, right? No, I have no idea. Zephyr. Cough cough cough. I used to be the Admiral of Headquarters, and now I'm the Marines' Chief Instructor. Zephyr also stopped being polite and straightforwardly said, I came this time to invite you to join the Marines. Although it completely hit the mark of his intentions, Zhao Shu still controlled Saitama and squeezed out a puzzled expression. The Marines? That's right. Zephyr said without hesitation, if you want to enforce justice, the best thing you can do is join the Marines. With your strength, you can definitely become a powerful Marine. It's not impossible for you to become a Marine Admiral. Admiral? Garp looked at Zephyr with a surprised expression. Does this Saitama really have that much potential? Even Ace and the others looked at the bald man in front of them with astonishment. They had also heard of the title of Marine Admiral. Before Zephyr could finish, he directly took out a newspaper from his pocket and stuffed it into Saitama's hand, saying, In this era, evil forces are rampant. Look, a few days ago, a villain named Uchiha Madara appeared, disrupting the order and causing harm in the world. If it's you, maybe you can bring this man to justice. Zhao Shu. Zephyr had confidence in his ability to judge people. This guy named Saitama must be a person full of justice. Using heinous criminals to attract him to join the Marines is the best choice. Look, even though he had a blank expression since I entered, his expression has changed somewhat. Time to seize the opportunity. Zephyr thought to himself. Without hesitation he said, Young man, you should know that the Marines' intelligence system is supported by the world government. If you join the Marines, you will have accurate information and be able to combat more criminals. Look at those pirates in the trash mountain. They are now hiding in the shadows. It will be difficult for you to catch them in a short time. But with good intelligence, it will be different. For example, Uchiha Madara. Despite his insane attack on Mariajoy, the Marines have already captured some of his locations. If you help, we can definitely catch this heinous criminal. Zhao Shu. His clone has been discovered. But this is not surprising. Before he split into a clone, he had already arranged for him to leak his whereabouts at the right opportunity, so that the Marines could lift the blockade on Sabodi Archipelago. However, how did Zephyr come up with this plan to bring me, the real me, to capture my clone? Cough. Maybe you're right, but I don't want to take orders from others, Saitama calmly said. After becoming a Marine, you have to obey the orders of your superiors, right? I am a hero driven by interest, and I can't accept the hierarchical relationship you have. It's okay. Zephyr patted his chest and said, I can arrange for you to be under my command. I won't give you any orders on a daily basis. You can make your own judgments based on the intelligence we provide. The salary in the Marines is also good, and there are bonuses for defeating pirates. You won't have to live in a straw hut anymore. Upon hearing these words, Saitama's eyes lit up. The next second, he appeared in front of Zephyr, earnestly shaking his hand. I agree to join the Marines. Zephyr. There's something strange about this kid. Oh well. Old man, this kid is pretty strong. Garp squinted his eyes. He didn't notice his speed just now, and he suddenly appeared around him. Of course, why else would I come all the way here? Zephyr laughed, not caring. TCH, I knew you didn't come all the way here just to catch up with me. Garp rolled his eyes. Of course, he didn't ask Zephyr for anyone else. Although Saitama performed well and had a strong sense of justice, the promises Zephyr made were not simple. A Marine who doesn't follow orders but only listens to assignments. You should know that the Marines, fundamentally, are the military force of the world government. What if he doesn't follow orders? He can't provide that kind of treatment. Even the high treatment Zephyr offered was abnormal. After a moment of silence, Garp remembered Zephyr's words when he voluntarily stepped down from the position of admiral and became a recruit training instructor. A Garp, I want to train a hero. Is this the hero you have chosen? Garp thought to himself. After deciding to join the Marines, Zephyr quickly took Saitama onto his warship. Of course, as a newly joined Marine, Zephyr only gave Saitama the rank of captain. Marine ranks are important, but not that important. In the future world conscription, the relatively unknown and unremarkable Green Bull and Fujitora can instantly become admirals. Of course, that's because it is led by the world government. Having the freedom to act without having to obey orders comes at a high cost. Zephyr is not one of the 5 elders, so he doesn't have that kind of authority. Giving him the rank of captain is just right, neither too big nor too small. He can lead a ship on his own without causing any problems due to excessive power. However, some people are worried. Zephyr, is it okay for you to do this? A lieutenant commander couldn't help but ask. We're not familiar with this guy named Saitama, right? Yeah, Zephyr nodded. Then why are you giving him so much power? The lieutenant commander frowned. As soon as they join the Marines, they become ensigns, and with the freedom to act. One wrong move and it could become a stain on Zephyr's reputation. That kid is not a bad person, don't worry, Zephyr smiled and said. How do you know? The lieutenant commander couldn't help but ask. It seems like this is the first time we've met him, right? Doing good deeds may be the result of some ulterior motive, Zephyr smiled and said, but having such strong power and building a house in the deep mountains, that's not something a bad person would do. The lieutenant commander was skeptical, but he no longer denied it. On the other hand, Zephyr smiled, remembering his conversation with Saitama earlier. Garp's grandson is a big problem. Luffy and Red Hair have an unclear relationship, and the other two don't seem like obedient types, especially Ace. Having come this far, he vaguely discovered something. But he didn't consider the fact that Ace and the others haven't done anything wrong, and also Garp's face. It was because of Garp's generosity that he cleanly gave up on Saitama. But Saitama has spent more time with Ace than he has. Wouldn't he notice anything? When Zephyr subtly asked Saitama on the warship, Saitama responded with a question. Ace, did he make a big mistake? No. Then that's it. Saitama looked at him with his silly face. If he didn't make a mistake, why would you arrest him? Of course, it seems like he will become a pirate in the future, but at that time, it's up to the me of that time to catch him. With these words, Zephyr fell silent. After a moment of silence, a figure approached from the side. What's wrong, Ensign? Zephyr looked at the bald man and couldn't help but smile. This marine uniform always feels uncomfortable. Can I change back to my previous clothes? Saitama adjusted the collar on his neck and asked. Whatever you want, I said you have the freedom to choose, Zephyr said. Oh, thank you, old man, Saitama smiled. By the way, where are we going now? Upon hearing this, Zephyr's face showed a hint of seriousness. To the Grand Line. The Marines have a major operation, and I'm taking you to capture Uchiha Madara. Saitama. This old man really went for this crazy move in the end. Zephyr's warship was very large, and Zhao Shu couldn't tell the model, but it was the latest type of marine ship that could cross the calm belt. It couldn't be mass-produced, only produced on a small scale, and was extremely expensive. So everyone who was assigned to this type of ship was a high-ranking marine. It can only be said that Zephyr's ships are truly remarkable. The interior space was very large. Even though they were confined to the ship and couldn't move around like on land, Zhao Shu didn't feel bored. At most, he felt a bit nervous because he had to maintain Saitama's appearance all the time. However, there were still some small incidents during the voyage. Pirates were a specialty of this great age of navigation. Especially after crossing the calm belt and arriving at the Grand Line, pirates were as numerous as hairs on an ox. Every time they encountered pirates, Zhao Shu didn't actively rush out, but calmly and slowly walked over. When he arrived, the other Marines would either be victorious or at a disadvantage. He didn't need to take action for victory, but when they were at a disadvantage, he quickly took action and defeated the enemy's leader with one punch. This also made Zephyr secretly nod in approval. Giving new recruits and soldiers a chance, although that person named Saitama lacked social skills, he would definitely become a good Marine. Furthermore, Saitama had a gentle temperament and didn't even wear Marine uniforms, so he didn't put pressure on people. Over time, not only Zephyr, but even the Marines became familiar with this excessively strong bald man. Lord Saitama. Toshigi looked excitedly at Saitama as he jumped back onto the warship from the enemy pirate ship. You've worked hard. Saitama still had a silly and cute expression as he looked at Toshigi. Who are you? Don't you remember? I'm Toshigi. Toshigi stood on her tiptoes and handed Saitama the sword she had. You gave me this sword back then. Oh, it's you. Saitama nodded. Why are you on the ship? Zephyr saw potential in me and let me come on board, Toshigi said excitedly. Being recognized by Zephyr was no small matter. it could be said that her future was boundless. Moreover, to have the qualifications to board the ship, she would have to wait at least 3 more years. However, now she was being recognized ahead of time thanks to Saitama's influence. However, a child this young is also a marine. Saitama frowned. Doesn't the world government have a complete conscription law? At the very least, they should prohibit minors under 18 from joining the military. Toshigi. Skipping the middle interlude. Without hesitation, Zephyr's ship sailed towards a certain island in the Grand Line. Zhao Shu could tell that the closer they got to the target island, the more ships appeared, gathering here. Obviously, the Marines were also going all out. When they got close enough, Marine soldiers immediately came to report and asked Zephyr to attend a meeting. As a newcomer highly regarded by Zephyr, Zhao Shu was also brought along by him. As soon as they walked in, Zhao Shu's eyes narrowed. Kizaru, Akainu, Aokiji, and Fujitora. Just by Zhao Shu's recognition, there were already 4 people. And the person sitting in one of the main seats was not wearing marine uniform, but wearing a mask that obstructed the view. The world government? Zhao Shu squinted his eyes and thought to himself. The world government is very powerful. Just the Marines under the world government have 3 admirals, Garp, Zephyr, Sengoku, and other powerful forces. If someone were to say that the world government doesn't have any strong individuals, Zhao Shu would be the first to not believe it. Obviously, the person in front of him should be a strong individual affiliated with the world government. Everyone gathered together, and as one of the few who wasn't wearing marine uniform, Saitama attracted everyone's attention. Zephyr-sensei, who is this person? Akainu frowned and asked. He's a recruit I just took in from the Marines. You don't need to worry about him. Zephyr smiled and said, we're here to defeat that person named Uchiha Madara. It seems like you value him a lot. Everyone also chose to accept it, because the current focus was not on this newcomer, but on the Avenger Uchiha Madara. According to our intelligence, Uchiha Madara is staying on this island. Crane pointed at the map with his cane and said in a low voice, so I've decided to disperse our forces, with 3 admirals and several experts as support, slowly surround him. On the map, several warships were drawn around an island, showing a trend of encirclement towards the island. The configuration of the Buster Call consisted of 5 vice admirals, 10 rear admirals, nearly 10,000 elite marines, and 10 top-level warships. However, at this moment, there were already about 5 admiral-level combatants in this place alone. Crane's plan was simple and straightforward. Surround the island, slowly approach, with admiral-level combatants as the core, and force that man out. If he doesn't show himself once they reach the border of the island, then they will use the Buster Call to completely cover the island. After all, there is only one small town here. It's enough to send 1 admiral to bring it under control, and they can inspect it slowly in the future. Mr. CP0 of the world government, do you have any objections to my command? Crane finished explaining and faced the strong individual from CP0. If I have to say, there is one thing, the person was not polite either. Their hypocritical voice came through the mask. I'm curious why you still want to bring in the villagers. Don't you know that those villagers could also be transformed by Uchiha Madara? That's just a matter of probability. Our Marines' responsibility is to protect the citizens, Crane calmly said, and you can't be sure that Uchiha Madara is 100% on the island. It goes against our duty to eliminate all the villagers based on a possibility. The intelligence came from my CP0, it's absolutely true. Our intelligence officer saw Uchiha Madara enter. Bringing in the villagers is not a troublesome matter. Watch them closely and temporarily detain the villagers in sea stone cages. There's a high possibility of capturing Uchiha Madara. The 2 of them exchanged words, their tones calm but with opposing views. And behind them, you see, without the Marines' intelligence network, it would be so difficult to find such a wicked criminal, right? Zephyr recommended Marine to Saitama, and with the cooperation of Marine experts, we can better surround him. Joining the Marines is definitely the best decision in your life. This time, that Uchiha Madara will definitely not escape. Zephyr said with unwavering confidence. Zhao Shu. Should I tell him that just a moment ago, my clone had already completed the mission and dissipated on its own? Honestly, Marine's intelligence system is indeed very strong, and the CPs are not lacking in being a government-established intelligence organization. Although there may be reasons why some clones were not deliberately hidden, the fact that they were able to discover a powerful ninja shows their strength. But the problem is, all my clones have dispersed, so who are you guys trying to stop? Zhao Shu's mouth twitched as he watched the Marines in the conference hall slowly discuss the details and quickly establish a complete and comprehensive battle plan centered around the crane. Beside him, Zephyr looked proud as he said to Zhao Shu, "Saitama, look, this is the power of an organization." Zephyr, at this moment, has not yet experienced the greatest transformation in his life, and he hasn't even lost his arm. But what power does this organization have? My clones have all returned. The plan is set. The admirals dispersed and took their positions, and Zephyr brought Zhao Shu back to his own ship. Be careful, that man named Uchiha Madara is not an ordinary villain, Zephyr warned, then said, "Get ready for battle." Zhao Shu, "Well, as long as you guys are happy. But what should I do in this situation?" After returning to his room, Zhao Shu fell silent for a moment, then he released the transformation technique, transformed again, and began forming hand seals. "Battle begins," the crane shouted, and her voice spread through the Den Den Mushi. The next second, countless warships began rapidly approaching the island. The three admirals, Zephyr, and the strong individuals from the world government all suddenly started moving, converging towards the center of the island. They needed to force the survivors into one direction and gather them in a separate lifeboat for future inspection. At the same time, there was another important task, finding Uchiha Madara. Over a dozen vice admirals manned the ships, and anyone who approached without proper identification would be treated as an enemy and killed. 5 admiral-level combatants, over a dozen vice admiral-level combatants. This level of power is already enough to go head-to-head with the 4 Emperor's pirate crews. The crane took command in the center, leading the operation. Under her command, the battle proceeded in an orderly manner, steadily and without any loopholes. This was also one of the reasons why the members of CP0 agreed to her plan. Now, let's see where Uchiha Madara will make his move from. The crane picked up a cup of tea, took a sip, and her eyes became deep and profound. With such a tightly woven net, even if he can transform, he won't be able to escape. Of course, the crane did not underestimate Uchiha Madara. The Holy Land Mariajoy, which had never been attacked before, became a disgrace to the celestial dragons in the hands of this man. With such an existence, anything is possible. Suddenly, a Den Den Mushi rang out abruptly. "Vice Admiral Crane, this is Doberman. I have spotted Uchiha Madara's figure." "He's here?" The crane narrowed her eyes and, with a speed completely different from her aging body, grabbed the Den Den Mushi. "Prepare for battle, hold him back at all costs. I will immediately dispatch reinforcements to you." As she spoke, the other Den Den Mushis were already being dialed. Around Vice Admiral Doberman, there were still 4 or 5 Vice Admirals, enough to hold Uchiha Madara back for a short time. Then immediately recall the Admiral-level combatants and attack him together. "Stallo Berry, this is Crane. Doberman has discovered Uchiha Madara. I order you to go and reinforce immediately." I can't leave." "What, are you joking?" "Not joking, there is also Uchiha Madara here." "What?" The crane was instantly stunned. Almost the next second, the Den Den Mushis around her started ringing one after another. "Chief of Staff, this is Squirrel. I have spotted Uchiha Madara's figure." "I am Gomiru. Uchiha Madara has appeared. Send reinforcements quickly." "Uchiha Madara is trying to break through from my side. I will do my best to hold him back. Admiral, come over immediately." In a certain direction, Uchiha Madara's figure has been spotted. A series of phone calls sounded, and the crane stood dumbfounded in the command center. How is this possible? This operation brought a total of 17 vice admirals. However, now almost every vice admiral was calling. But the next second, she suddenly reacted. Is it some kind of ability again? Contact the admirals for reinforcements, maintain formation. I don't believe that every Uchiha Madara is so strong. There must be a real one. The Marines below immediately dialed the Den Den Mushis, but Chief Crane? Saichin, you guys come back quickly. There are over a dozen Uchiha Madaras appearing around us, trying to break through. I have already ordered the vice admirals to hold them back, but we need you. In front of us, there is also a Uchiha Madara. What? In the center of the island, in front of the 5 Marine Admiral-level combatants. Uchiha Madara stood clad in brownish-red armor, his hands crossed. A strong killing intent surged forth. Come, let the game begin. Uchiha Madara, does he also have the ability to create clones? There are still over 10 Uchiha Madara on Vice Admiral's side? If those over there are clones, then this one here should be the original. Kizaru squinted his eyes, his tone strange. The aura of this person in front of him is even stronger than the one he had seen before. If this is a clone, Kizaru would never believe it. Even if it's 5 against 1, we will still achieve victory. Akainu clenched his fist, a murderous intent surging. Uchiha Madara, you will die. Zephyr threw off his coat, revealing his muscular body. Don't say we're despicable, you're the dangerous one here. The powerful members of CP0 slightly lowered their bodies. After all, you are Uchiha Madara. I won't say you're despicable. Uchiha Madara's mouth curled up, his fingers forming seals. 5 against 1, it's just right for a game. In the next second, clones made of trees suddenly grew under his feet. And then, 5 people, 5 people, 5 people, 5 people, 5 people. A total of 25 clones, divided into teams of 5, stood in front of each marine powerhouse. The admirals' faces changed, looking at the 5 individuals standing in front of them in disbelief. This is what it means to be 5 against 1, don't say I'm despicable. Uchiha Madara looked proudly at everyone. After all, you are marine admirals. For a moment, all 5 of them changed their expressions. The ability to create clones, can it be used like this? Feeling the presence of one clone after another, everyone's faces were filled with seriousness. Strong. Very strong. Although they are not as imposing as the original, they possess a power close to that of an admiral. Zhao Shu stood in the center with a proud posture, his hands crossed. In fact, after several performances, he was already very close to Uchiha Madara's full power. Host. Zhao Shu. Character template. 1. Uchiha Madara, 67%. 2. Saitama, 48%, 80% is equivalent to his prime, and 67% is only slightly lower than his prime. Currently, Zhao Shu's Uchiha Madara has the Wood Style and Sage Mode abilities. The clones just now were Wood Style clones. Compared to Uchiha Madara in his prime, Zhao Shu only lacks the Rinnegan and being the 10 Tails Jincha, Riki. With Sage Mode, Zhao Shu is already not much weaker than Uchiha Madara when he fought the 5 Cage. After all, although Uchiha Madara at that time had an extra Rinnegan, he didn't actually use it against the 5 Cage. And the Uchiha Madara at that time was brought back through Impure World reincarnation, so there was still a certain gap in strength compared to the real person. Perfect, let me act well. Uchiha Madara squinted his eyes, his gaze sharp. In the next second, the clones rushed towards the admirals without hesitation. Boom, boom. As soon as they clashed, the admiral's eyes became even more serious. Each of these clones actually possesses power surpassing that of a vice admiral? Although they are still slightly weaker than the admirals, they are facing 5 of them. Laser. Kizaru suddenly attacked. He aimed at the original Uchiha Madara. However, in the face of the attack at the speed of light, Uchiha Madara's original body simply tilted his head slightly and easily avoided it. It seems it's not that easy to deal with after all. Kizaru smiled, but his eyes were incredibly serious. So strong and with so many clones, yet it doesn't affect the original's fighting power? You're cheating. Zhao Shu smiled. The Wood-style clone should be one of the strongest clones. Whether it's in terms of disguise or power, it can display quite impressive strength. As for the consumption, well, it is a bit high. But the problem is, now that I have Wood-style and Hashirama's cells, do I still care about consumption? Akainu suddenly threw a punch, great eruption. The Uchiha Madara clone he attacked leapt without hesitation, while another Uchiha Madara clone beside it suddenly thrust a sword. Akainu hastily dodged, but before he could stabilize himself, another Uchiha Madara clone attacked. The coordination is quite good. After all, they are all the same person. Zephyr fought calmly. His experience far surpassed the 3 admirals at present, and he hadn't lost his arm. Although his stamina was a bit weaker, he was still within the safe range, and his combat power was stronger than the 3 admirals. A single clone is nothing, it's still weaker than an admiral, but in terms of quantity. If all the clones are like this, how strong will the original be? Zephyr frowned. Before this battle, Marine had introduced a lot of information to the combat personnel. For example, that giant called Susanoo. Suddenly, Uchiha Madara's original body spoke up. Next, I'll ask you all a question. In an instant, everyone's attention was focused on him. Uchiha Madara looked disdainfully at everyone. Which do you think is better, using or not using Susanoo for these clones? In the next second, everyone's expression completely changed. The battle situation has completely descended into a bitter struggle. Admiral Crane furrowed her brows, her expression grim. Up until now, almost every Vice Admiral has encountered an Uchiha Madara and is engaged in a desperate fight against him. However, the problem is that they are all being suppressed by Uchiha Madara. Of course, Vice Admirals are still Vice Admirals. With the support of many high-ranking Marines and naval artillery, they are still managing to restrain Uchiha Madara and are unable to leave for the time being. But now, the Uchiha Madara fighting against the Vice Admirals should all be clones. Crane bit her lip. The one fighting against the Admirals should be the real body. Otherwise, the Admirals wouldn't be trapped in such a fierce battle. But, report, Vice Admiral Stalo Berry can no longer hold on, he is requesting support. Vice Admiral Crane, Vice Admiral Doberman says he can only hold on for 3 more minutes. The Justice Judgment has been hit by the residual attack from Uchiha Madara and is starting to sink. All the news is bad. Crane's expression grew solemn as she glanced at the central battlefield. Currently, the only mobile combat force in the Marines is herself, Vice Admiral Crane. Her strength is not weak and can even be considered slightly weaker than an admiral. But, is the real Uchiha Madara really the one fighting against the admirals? Crane furrowed her brows, unable to make a decisive judgment. The one fighting against the admirals right now is just his clone, after all. Could it be that the real Uchiha Madara has already switched to one of his clones to fight against the Vice Admirals? Crane furrowed her brows. She didn't believe that this kind of fierce battle, which involved fighting against 5 admirals and over 10 Vice Admirals at the same time, could be sustained indefinitely. The clones would eventually break, but the Marines might not be able to hold on for that long. In reality, it was just as Crane had anticipated. The Marines were being suppressed everywhere. The Admiral's side of the battlefield was currently in the worst state. Bang! A Susanoo wielding a sharp blade sliced through the body of Qingxi. However, after a short while, Qingxi's body would regenerate from elementalization. Elementalization is the strongest ability of the 3 admirals. Lava, light, ice. Unless they are devil fruit users, they cannot kill them. With the 3 of them acting as shields and with the assistance of Zephyr and CP0's powerful members, they barely managed to maintain the battle. But everyone knows that this kind of tricky method cannot be sustained for long. The simplest problem is that even if Uchiha Madara himself cannot use Haki, as long as he has a bit of intelligence, he will not fail to prepare weapons made of Seastone to deal with elementalization enemies. Seastone is a strategic resource, precious and as valuable as gold. But for such powerful individuals, it is still possible to find Seastone weapons. Seastone weapons could appear at any time. As for why they haven't appeared yet, he is waiting for the right moment, the 5 of them thought in unison. The opportunity to kill Admiral in one fell swoop. After all, it is impossible for such a strong person to not be able to get their hands on a Seastone weapon. They worked hard to be vigilant against each other, not giving the other a chance, otherwise it could be really dangerous. However, Zhao Shu himself touched his chin and said, "Indeed, it's quite a disadvantage to not have a Seastone weapon." He really doesn't have any Seastone at all. Seastone is a strategic resource, and the Seastone in the hands of pirates is mostly smuggled. It is extremely precious and only the wealthy Marines can use it on warships. Of course, it is not difficult to find, at least not for strong individuals. But it takes time, and Zhao Shu simply doesn't have that time. Of course, he doesn't need it either. The Hokage world also has effective means to deal with this kind of strange energy. But is he here to eliminate Marine admirals? Zhao Shu's mouth curled up, showing a contemptuous look. A mere sand grain is no match for me. Arrogant. Akainu immediately became angry. 5 admirals made their move, but they couldn't even touch his clothes. What face does the Marine have? Anyway, Uchiha Madara hasn't used a method to deal with his elementalization yet. He gritted his teeth and prepared to withstand the sword of Susanoo in front of him, and rushed towards the true body of Uchiha Madara. But, bang, PFF'd, Akainu spat out a mouthful of blood, his face full of astonishment. His elementalization was broken. Zhao Shu looked at Akainu as if he was looking at a fool. Compared to impure world reincarnation, elementalization is far inferior. Even impure world reincarnation can be sealed, so why not elementalization? As long as he loads the power of sealing onto Susanoo, he can naturally touch Akainu. Uchiha Madara himself is also very skilled in sealing techniques, such as sealing the hearts of Rin and Obito, preventing them from using their own power to commit suicide. As one of the final bosses, it is difficult to find a weakness that Uchiha Madara is not good at. In fact, when Zhao Shu's strength is further enhanced, he won't even need sealing techniques. He will directly use the black rod and the yin-yang jade. The dissolution of all things, are you afraid? Quick, protect Akainu. Seeing Akainu spitting blood, Zephyr couldn't help but speak up. Kizaru, who is the fastest, rushed over to save him at the risk of being hit by Susanoo, while the others fought desperately to hold back the clones. But everyone's eyes were filled with uncontrollable shock. Are they going to lose? They couldn't even touch Uchiha Madara's clothes, and they're going to lose?